Alrighty guys, so what I have for your viewing pleasure today is a Craftsman lawnmower with one of my favorite Briggs style motors on it. This thing has been properly rednecked. So we have a blade brake cable that is in a severe state of disarray, to say the least. And it's been bypassed with a stubby screwdriver, which looks like a Klein or some other nice brand. And that's the rope handle pull cord. It's a crescent nut driver, it looks like. So the first thing we're going to do is verify that in fact this mower has compression. So I'm grabbing the pull cord and I'm going to pull back on it a few times. Definitely feels like it's got compression. So we're in luck as far as that goes. Now I do know that the blade is really rusty. You guys can just barely see it there. I may be able to save it, but I do have a ton of extra good used blades on hand, both on my shelf and on other junker lawnmowers I've got. So more than likely this thing needs a carburetor cleaning, which isn't hard enough to do. These are one of the reasons why these particular Briggs are my favorite to work on, is because they're so simple. Now let's see how old this thing is. It's a 2006. So this thing is just over 10 years old and it's in pretty bad condition. Alright, so we'll remove the air hat. This filter is actually still in good condition, so we could just service that and reuse it. And we have a bunch of debris that's all over here, but like I said, I'm pulling this tank off to clean it and the carburetor out anyways, so we'll get to doing this. And we'll pull the spring off. Things a little bit easier on us. And there's the tank. So the rest of this, I'm going to go ahead and pull the recoil assembly off. It's mainly because I want to put a new pull string on this thing. Off it goes. No black widows. What I see anyways. And it looks like it should be okay. So I don't want to lose Probably this. One of the easiest ways you can clean all this crap off of really anything is to vacuum it. Alright, so now the next step is to remove the 5 screws from the carb. And now that the carb's off, let's look everything over. We're going to be replacing this gasket and diaphragm, so we can remove this. Pull the PCV line off, carburetor air hat mounting gasket, and we're going to go clean this out. In order to clean one of these out, all you have to do is shoot some carb spray into each little hole and orifice, mainly these two down here as well. And we usually remove them. We usually clean them out pretty well doing that. Alright, so the gas tank's been cleaned out. Now we're going to replace the diaphragm and gasket and mount the carburetor back on the tank. After that, we'll replace the primer bulb. So I buy these in bulk. I normally get them off Amazon, but your diaphragm is going to go up against the tank. Just like that. And your thread on top of the diaphragm, just like this. Now you're going to need to put your spring and your mesh fuel filter back on. And slide the carburetor back where it's supposed to go. I always put these screws back in finger tight at first, just to kind of line everything up, make sure everything goes somewhat smoothly. And there you have it. Carburetor's reinstalled on the tank. PCV line goes back on the carburetor. And we'll put the spring back on. That just slides back into that small hole right there on the throttle valve. Make sure it's pointed the right way, of course. You always want to make sure that that little O-ring is still in there and intact. Sometimes it'll fall out, you won't even realize it. So you always want to be careful about that. Make sure that if it's not on there, to put one on there, because the mower won't run right without it. It won't make a proper seal with the side of the block. And the best way to change these out is with a small flathead screwdriver, and you just want to kind of pry in here a little bit. So you want to get that tang pointed out the other direction. There you have it. And one thing that sucks about this new gas we have to use is with the ethanol in it, it dissolves these primer bulbs over time. You always want to be wary of that. So, new primer bulb just goes in like this. And the trick to reinstalling these is to get a deep socket, put it back in place, but I've always used a flathead screwdriver on each side. Never had an issue. Cool. Good to go. So now to fix the recoil with the brand new rope and proper pull cord. Alright, so here we are with the recoil. You always want to make sure that those two tabs are coming out every time you pull on the cord. So all you have to do to replace one of these, pull the cord all the way out. I like to get a pair of vice grips or locking pliers, which will allow me to lock the wheel in place. They left on these this nice little tab here, which makes things a lot easier. So you just want to line it up as best you can. Get your locking pliers. Not too tight because that wheel is plastic. So the next thing you want to do is just pull the little knot out and give it a snip. And there's our old pull cord. So I actually want to make this one a little bit longer. So in the event that you don't have one, always cut about 5 feet worth of cord. Probably about 5 will be fine. But I'm just going to size it up with my spool here. Because if you cut too much, you can always cut some off at the end of it. Cutting too much is easier to fix than cutting too little. So you just feed it through the hole. And this can kind of be a little tricky. And just like that, just feed it in and through. Grab the rope, tie a small knot in it. Pull it back to tighten it. Now we'll add a handle on from the horde, and we'll hopefully meet each other back at the lawnmower here. Alright, so now I'm just going to reinstall the recoil. Works nice and well now. So throw that back in before we put the tank back on. Alright, so let's get the tank ready. The easiest thing to do is put the governor linkage arm back on first. Make sure everything lines up as it should. We'll need to reinstall this as well. Okay. governor linkage arms working. Throw the front bolt back in. Problem solved. Now just to service the air filter, and after we do that we'll change the oil, hopefully throw some gas in her, see if she starts. Alright, so now we're going to change the oil. To do that, just pull the dipstick out. Tip your mower. The old nasty black oil comes out. Alright, so now just throw the fresh oil in. Only going to need about 20 ounces, half a quart. So we're actually going to use all of what's left in this bottle. And I'm just going to let them drain a little bit. So I'm going to check the level on the dipstick. We are right where we should be. Yep, I'm happy with that. So I just threw a new blade on it, adjusted the brake control cable some, and put a new spark plug in. That kind of clicking noise you're hearing over and over again, I think that's something in the recoil that's just rubbing or vibrating a little bit. I don't think it's really anything major. So let me go ahead and clean this thing up, and we'll be right back. Alright guys, so here it is all put back together. I didn't take my pressure washer to it, but I took my Works Hydro Shot, and it seemed to do an okay job. I do prefer the pressure washer for cleaning up lawnmowers with paint that can handle the much more PSI that those gas pressure washers put out. But it's got a new blade control cable. Carburetor's been serviced with a new diaphragm kit. I did end up putting a new filter screen on there. Brand new primer bulb. I put a brand new blade on. And of course, fresh oil change and change the spark plug. Let's start it up, let it run for a while. Now this is the part where I let it run for about 15, 20, sometimes 30 minutes to make sure everything's good. You guys won't see a clip that's that long of this thing, but you'll get enough of an idea of what it sounds like now.